No, you can
Oh,
disclose.
that's all right. There was ones that, you just had to be careful with. And then you also have to build rapport with reporters, especially your statewide reporters. And so we'd always invite them to good things that are going on campus.
Well, yeah, because probably if you
have a reservoir of goodwill.
Because a reporter you could make them angry.
Well,
they can use that
kinds of
against you too.
Yeah. And they can make anything you want, right?
Or make you look anyway. They can spin a story.
Or when you're working on it, like you'll in a news like with the news, you get interviewed for 45 minutes and you'd have 25 seconds of sound bites.
Yeah.
And so you always want to talk about their editing. That if you work with them and stuff, and you give them like good stories too to come in. I always said, they just say, okay, well, we edit certain things out, right? When you're like picking your nose, you're like, oh, coughing. You get stumped on something that you're supposed to know. I say,
Hang on.
check, take two,
Yeah.
and we'd all have a good laugh,
Yeah.
So
It takes a while. You have to get a lot of footage to cover a small amount of time.
it does.
Like especially if you're doing something like really informative. Like you need to have so many cuts and so many just small filler videos.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. It's a lot.
I did a video documentary with my daughter, with Emily, my 12-year-old, on making, what did we make? Apple pie. In baking, right? So it was in her class, and it was supposed to be a documentary involving science in something different. So it was science and baking. So we did apple pie. We used my GoPro, and
Oh yeah.
we had all kinds. We had overlooking. We had like ladders in the kitchen, so we did overhead shots, and then we do takes, and she said, "Okay, no, let's do it again." So we did it again, and then she did all the editing, and she did a great job, better than I could do at 47. So
It's hard. It takes a while to get used to it too. Alright, so let me just get a little clip of you saying your name, your job title, what you do here.
I'm Don Stubbings. I'm the Director of Safety and Security here at the University of St. Mary.
How long have you been here?
This is my third academic year.
Okay. So how has USM changed since the time that you've been here? It can be with the campus, it can be with new developments, the students.
In terms of my role, or what were you?
Just generally. Like since you've been here, how have you seen it change? Have you seen it grow? Have you seen it? What have you noticed?
And since I've since I've been here, the growth of the university in aspects of athletics, for example, we've grown in our wrestling program, which has added space and responsibility for our public safety areas. We've added swimming. We've added students in that respect as well with our Doctor of Physical Therapy program. So we've seen growth in that area, and certainly growth in the infrastructure of campus as well. The updates with our camera systems, for example, which adds a complete coverage of campus, both inside and outside. So we have several areas on campus that we have a progressive growth plan within our camera system. So we've seen a lot as you add buildings and add square footage. You also add a lot of areas of responsibility for all of our employees.
Yeah. How would you compare like USM's campus to other campuses?
It's very similar. People say you're at a small college or a small university, but the reality is that every university has essentially a lot of the same structure. Whether it be resident life and administration, and then different areas that are concentrated. The University of St. Mary is small. It's a family atmosphere, and it's not as spread out. So if a student still has all those same amenities that a university has, whether they're at a big university or a mid-size or a small university, it's the same. It's just concentrated here in our about 200-acre campus.
200 acre? What do you think about our parking at St. Mary?
It's Comparatively, it's excellent. At most universities, they sell more parking permits than there are parking stalls. And that's a little known fact, and also students at most universities pay a premium, and faculty staff pay a premium. And parking is part of your tuition here. And last time when we did the parking upgrades, there's enough parking for everybody on campus. It's not always the best parking in terms of convenience. If you park out at, like baseball right now is almost wide open. So there's plenty of parking out there. It's just about a 100-yard walk. Whereas if you park by Miege Hall or over by the Ryan, north of the Ryan, it's a little bit of a shorter walk. But comparatively, we have better parking than most universities.
Oh, for sure. Like if you go to KU or something, you have like a 2-mile walk just to go anywhere.
Right, and the cost for parking at a large university, is very expensive.
Oh yeah, and you still don't even get good parking. When
No.
You're paying hundreds of dollars for a permit, and you're still walking 30 minutes
Yes.
to class. And we were talking how the people are choosing to park on the road, and if you park on the baseball field, it's almost the same walk as if you park on the street.
Yes.
And it's flat that way. You don't have to walk up all the hills.
It is, and there's a chance that parking on the street, maybe a vehicle coming down Hughes Road may not see it, and so the parking in a parking lot is always recommended, just because you don't have to enter the street to get out of your vehicle, or exit the campus onto the street to get into your vehicle.
Okay. Other than the camera system and athletics growing with the new buildings that you have to take over, what kind of developments have been going on around campus?
In terms of our programming here for our public safety and for our students, faculty, and staff, in 2017 we received a grant from the Department of Transportation to educate our community on distracted and impaired driving. So we have an impaired driving goggle system as well as a go-kart that students, faculty, and staff can request a presentation, and it's fun. You don't realize how distracted driving and impaired driving really reflects on the safety of drivers on the streets and roads in our communities.
That's cool. I didn't know that was a thing.
We
Maybe I'll write a story about it.
Right. We also do our Title IX training, our domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking training, which we received an incredible grant from the Department of Justice that allows us to bring additional programming onto campus, such as bystander intervention, more training for our local police and local public safety officers here that will enhance their ability to respond to cases of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking and dating violence. You'll see that on a small campus, or most campuses, it's very underreported. And one of the goals of this grant is to increase for survivors to come forward and to have that safe area and the experts on campus to properly respond to that. And we applied for this grant and I'm very fortunate to get this grant. And we've been working very hard this year in our planning year. And next year you'll see a lot of changes in terms of our programming and the availability of various efforts throughout that spectrum of crimes for our survivors to improve services, not only on campus but community-wide.
Yeah. That's cool. I'm definitely going to probably come back to you about that one someday, maybe next semester. So, if St. Mary were to have to build another lot, where would you think the next places would be if you had to go somewhere else?
Part of the challenges of building lots and adding concrete or asphalt is drainage. And when you add a lot, the water runoff, for example, this week, you would have to have a proper drainage system, which costs a lot of money. To build a lot is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And as we grow, we look at different areas. And right now, we have enough parking for everybody. And so right now, there's not a plan to add additional, but we look at a place that is in our landscape that would fit those areas where we could add proper drainage and where we could add lighting and accessibility as well. Some of our some of our areas that are the most flat aren't the most accessible.
Yeah.
And so we have ADA to think about, and areas for people who are using wheelchairs and have handicap permits, and increasing that space available as well. And so when you add regular stalls, you have to add a proportion amount of handicap availability, and so we'd have to do that. But there's areas on campus that we can do that, but it would be cost. There'd be a large cost to not only add the concrete work and the asphalt and the roads, but also the drainage systems that are required by our city officials.
How much did the softball one cost then? Ish.
Jonathan would have that answer for you. Ish, hundreds?
It was in the hundreds, I know that.
Let's see.
Can't remember exactly what it was. Yeah, softball was 94,000.
Oh my goodness. That's insane. That's
Yeah.
crazy. So what would you say to students who complain about parking all the time? They're always just like, man, I have to fight to find a good spot and blah, 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 blah. What would you say to them?
I'd say just arrive a little bit early, be patient, be courteous with those who are, everybody tries to get into spots at the same time, so be courteous. And don't be afraid to go out and take one of the more distant stalls, because that'll be less stress on you, because you know where you're going. You just go to this and you'll walk in. It takes a few minutes to walk from the baseball or the softball area, and then you're not stressed out. If you try to go around in circles thinking there's going to be a spot at 8:10 or 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning, you'll end up you start your day with stress, and you don't need that. Just go out to one of the areas, get a nice walk in. If it's raining and stuff, I understand, but certainly the exterior lots that we have available to our entire community offer plenty of parking, and it's less stress as well. One thing we did add, and we will be activating soon, is emergency phones in those areas. They're blue boxes, and they'll have a direct line to our public safety officers who are working 24 hours a day here. They're here even on Christmas, helping our students who are dedicated and making sure that their property is secure as well on those holidays. But those new emergency phones were installed earlier this month, and there is some technology that we're adding to them before they'll go live. But as soon as they go live, we'll let our community know that those are available.
Didn't know that. I think someone wrote a story about that actually recently, about
Yes,
the little
yeah.
emergency boxes. Oh man, I had one more question. Maybe not. Do you have anything else to add about your thoughts? I don't know. Anything else you can think of that you just have to put in there?
No, be active in your with community security and community safety. It's really a partnership between public safety, the students, and our community to make campus a safe place. If you see something, say something. Don't make it easy for somebody in terms of locking your doors, locking your car up. People who commit crimes, of property crimes, look for opportunities. And if they find an unlocked door versus a locked door, they're going to go to the unlocked door 100% of the time. It is. It's a partnership. It takes a little bit of effort to make sure that door is locked, and make sure you're communicating with your roommates on if they're locking the door, both on and off campus. It's not just on campus, but when you live off campus, communicate with your roommates about who's locking doors and leaving lights on that will help to secure things. And it's a partnership, and make sure if you're diligent in protecting your property and making good decisions when you're going out, make sure that you use the resources that are available. We have security here 24 hours a day that can walk you from those distant parking lots if you need to walk. And, you know, be active in the safety of our community.
Are there lights down at, like, that lead to the baseball one?
Baseball one has lights along the sidewalk.
Mhm.
There are not lights in the parking lot
Mhm.
themselves. That's why we recommend, and we added those phones down there.
Yeah.
The infrastructure right now for power, to power a full parking lot is not there.
Yeah.
And you know, we can look at that down the road as budget allows. But it's used for regular parking. During the evenings, there's plenty of parking that's close to campus. So,
All right, I think I got everything I need.
all right,
Much appreciated.
thank you.
Great.